Welcome to a space for movement, mindset, and sustainable rhythm. This is Body Evolution.
Welcome to Body Evolution Podcast, where health becomes simple, sustainable, and human.
We break down fitness, nutrition, habits, and energy through one lens what actually works in real life. Today's episode, we're going to talk about identity first and why transformation begins in the mind.
Amazing. I love it, Corey. It's a beautiful theme. So, when did you first see identity as the real engine of change?
You know, it's been a gradual thing. I've never really brought it to my conscious mind until I was really coaching people and trying to get people to change their habits and to change how they live their life. And I thought if I really just sort of taught them what I know and that they would just really take to it and try to motivate them and try to give them incentives and things like that. So people would they would try and people would do the things and they'd say, "Oh, that really makes sense. Let me try this. Let me do that." But then I would talk with them over the weeks of coaching them and they'd come back and like, "How'd you do?" "Well, I didn't really do it this week. I had this going on. I had that going on. This is this and that." And there's always reasons why you can't do something. But then I started thinking about, well, why can I fit it in when I have a busy life? But why do they fit in things that they do normally that I maybe can't fit into my life, but they're not fitting this in even though they think it's a priority. I'm like, well, it's not really. It's because really how we identify ourselves, and that's what really it clicked in me. It's like identity is so key to how we behave and how we can force ourselves to do something that's sort of uncomfortable to our identity, but when it comes down to it, we're always going to fall back into who we are.
Okay, and I wanted to add something there. Is that it's so true what you were explaining. And for a long time, I just was feeling that I was inconsistent. I was trying things and I was feeling always a little bit frustration because they were so hard for me to do. And the consistency was that maybe I did it for a short period of time, but then it, it was not possible to keep on going. And here I remember those moments, for example, doing uh, all the process with diets to lose weight and going hard into it, you know. But I wanted to look better. I wanted to feel better and everything. And I was trying for a long time so many things, diets, exercise, and everything. And it didn't stick. It didn't work. And I was very focused on short term, uh, getting something fast. But there was a moment where I decided, like, I just want to be healthy. I want to become healthy, a healthy person. And I shift from trying to look good and I began to be in alignment with I want to be healthy. And I began to think what a healthy person will do. And that began to make the transformation. It was really, really amazing how it begins to change and shift things for me.
Great. Yeah. So you really clicked because you took on that identity even consciously, versus just sort of gradually. It's like, and that helps you make those decisions and define what you're going to do. So why do you think that people skip that step and jump right into action all the time?
Oh, I see. And I think some people were just what is happening to me for that long period of time was I want quick fixes. I want something fast. Oh, I need to lose weight. So you jump straight away. Oh, I need to be strong and I want to feel better and I want to be more athletic. So you go because the motivation is high. Typical, no? Starting the year. Oh my God, I gonna change this and the other and everything, and you're like just pumping everything you want to change, and you want everything fast. And what we do, we jump straight away and we begin to do things and push hard and hard and hard. But this is the culture we are in. just jump and just do it and just go for it. It's the only thing. Don't think about it. And sometimes, yes, it can work for some people, and sometimes in some situations, something like that is what you maybe need. But usually, the majority of the time, is so much pressure, so much trying to drive change by pressure and pushing it that it backfires to you. It backfires, and because it's not aligned with your lifestyle,
Yeah,
with who you are and everything, it may work for a little period of time, but when it backfires, well, then we're talking about yo-yo effect, or how I couldn't maintain in the gym, or how I can not maintain, like, all this process.
yeah,
So I think people just sometimes we are very impatient and we want everything fast,
yeah.
and we don't understand that we need time to adapt.
And why do you think they maybe these quick fixes feel safer than the deep alignment? Why is it? Why might people think that like, oh, it's like it's easier for them to look at that the quick fixes rather than the deep alignment part of it?
Well, we have grown like that, and we have a culture where it's about jump and do the things, but it's safer too because truly going deep inside you and trying to do changes at a personal internal level is more challenging, no, and it's harder, but it's not because it's harder, it's because people doesn't know how to go through those processes, and because we want results fast, we think that is the best, and we think it's harder the other way, but usually look how much people jump straight away into action and then
Right.
they fail, and it's not long term. And yes, maybe you lose the weight for the summer, and you're like, oh my god, amazing, and you feel good. And this is the other funny part: once you get to that small goal and you get like, just stop doing everything you were doing, and then you go back and you're like, oh, but again.
Yeah.
So this is the misconception, that it's easier to jump and do something hard for 1 month and then it's done. But this is not when we're talking about the. This is a one-time action, okay, but when it's more about ourselves, it's a long-term action. So
Yeah.
I feel that people have that wrong idea. Oh, if I do this and I lose weight and then it's done, I don't have to do anything else. And no, it's a process. It's a lifetime process of moving forward and
Hmm. Hmm.
taking care
So
of
and so
yourself.
people are scared of that lifetime change. They're gonna have to change who they are. That's a big thing. And so yeah, it's people are living into who they are. So it's not that they lack discipline. It's really that they're operating from an identity that doesn't match really who they want to be.
Exactly. And that's why now that you talk about exactly identity and who they want to be, I wanted to ask you, why is identity key for consistent behavior change?
That's a good question because we just talked about why people, don't include identity into this thing, but identity is so key to like this long-term and permanent behavior change because it's got to be who we are, or we're always going to be fighting it. So your identity shapes your behavior, and the behavior then reinforces the identity. And so you can shift your identity through behavior that you become comfortable with. So these big changes, these big pushes, these big efforts are counter to our identity, and they never feel natural to part of who we are. So shifting the identity is a process that's what we kind of developed here. Is once I discovered, when I talked about earlier, it's like identity is this big thing, but how do I change that for people? That's where this program is different, and this process for body evolution is different than everything else, is because we're going to address that. And so how do we do that? The little micro habits, changes on a small level that you can really feel good about and integrate into your life, and like then you can own them, becomes part of your identity. It's this loop of you just like, oh, it reinforces my brain, and the behavior keeps reinforcing it, and the identity reinforces the behavior, and then you can get, then just take on a little bit more behaviors, a little bit more, a little bit more, and then become this person who's living the life that you want to live and living it the way that will last for your longevity and everything else, and becomes then more flexible when the things come up in your life that throw you off. Well, you fall back into who you are once you come off of that, right? You get a busy week at work, or you have a vacation. All this happens. The holidays are coming. Watch out. All the Christmas food and the social events, everything else. But the old identity, before we make the shift, is going to fall back after that into comfort and who I am. And it's hard to push yourself into something different. But if the identity is that, oh, I don't overeat calories, I watch my nutrition, I'm pretty consistent about my movement and my working out, then that becomes a natural part of who you are. So if those week and a half you know went way away from those habits because of life just happens, you fall back into who you are. It feels natural to go back into that lifestyle. So the consistency is there for the long term.
Well, you're so right in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely,
So what
definitely.
happens when people try to build habits from pressure instead of alignment?
Well, so exactly what you were talking about. When we try to make it from pressure, it's so easy to overstress, overwhelm your nervous system, to get stressed, because I have to do this and I have to do that, and if I cannot fail, and you're trying to push very hard, and because you are overstressing yourself, and it's not coming from more an alignment with yourself, that that stress backfires. That stress pushes you to feel bad. It can create a lot of frustration when you are pressuring so much, and to like this short-term process, too much pressure at the same time. And that is something that happens when people want to take too much action. Like, I want to go to the gym, and they jump into the gym, and I want to be strong and fit, and I want to lose weight, and they begin 1, 2 hours the first day they go to the gym. Oh, I'm going to push and everything. They overstress the body, and what happened for the following days is that they did so hard that they are like extremely sore. They sometimes even can injury themselves because they are not used to it. But it's so much that then they're like, oh, this hurts so much. Oh my God. So then it's hard to think I'm going to go back to the gym because it feels like punishment and you're pushing very hard yourself. So when you do it from pressure to push yourself very strong to do something, look, it can, and I will repeat it, sometimes for some few people, it can work out and is what they needed. But for the majority of us, it's not going to work for the long term. It can work for something that you need very short term, but it's going to be stressful. It's going to be hard. It's going to feel like punishment.
Mhm.
And definitely it's not going to work long term. Definitely is not. And you
Right.
will have to come back every time because once you lose that strength that you gain in the gym, that once you improve a little bit your sleep, but it's going to come back and you're going to go to the old patterns and everything.
Right.
Then what we need is a little bit of looking into the future and who you want to be, not only how you want to feel and how you want to look and how you want to move and express in the world, but it's what is the lifestyle you want to have that can fit and it is alike with all those other parts that you want. So sometimes we just are looking how I want to look in summer, how I want to feel in this moment for my wedding, or how I want to be in this moment when we're going to play this match with my friends and this team. So you're very focused on that little thing, but you're not thinking in your life and lifestyle and how can you build it in a way that you can get there, but it's sustainable. So that's where we have to do like future self activation to gain clarity, to gain direction, and gain rhythm. And there is where more discipline, uh, for me, it happens in the past. More discipline was not working because it was not aligned. And I was falling out of the wagon a lot. It happens with diets. For a long time, I was overweight. I can like 105 kilos, and I needed to lose weight for healthy reasons, and not only because I wanted to feel good and look good, but I would have some struggles, and I needed to lose the weight. So I was doing these extreme diets they were sending me of calorie count, and it was a lot of discipline. And I managed to do it for maybe 1 month, and believe me, I lose weight, but because I was starving, I was eating too few, and every day it was a struggle. Every day was hard. Every day was, oh my God. And I was like, when I was wishing so much the day that they tell me, okay, you can stop the diet. And when they tell me, you're done, you finish the diet, oh my God, I was like, I gonna eat the world. And very soon, in less than 1 month, I was recovering all the weight I have been losing, and I was again in the same position, and all because there was not alignment, and I was doing everything for pressure and discipline. And yes, it worked for 1 month, but it was not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I couldn't push farther there.
Interesting. So summarize, you're basically you're once you use that pressure, it's that pressure is always just feels like too much, and people are always going to pull back from it eventually. And so yeah, it can be the motivation, but it's never going to last. So in summary, identity is really the quiet engine behind every habit that we keep if it's part of our identity. But it's also that that reason why we break the habits as well if our identity is not aligned with what we want to do. So good.
Yes, I love that what you just said, and exactly it is like that. When you love something, it becomes really easy a habit. But when you are trying to build a habit because you just think it's good for you, but you are not aligned and you really don't want it, it's it's really hard to integrate.
Mm.
And this brings me, uh, what? Why do you feel that being calm is more powerful than motivation itself?
Hmm. Well, okay, so like you just talked about, there can be a lot of reasons for motivation. If you have a competition coming up, if you have a vacation to look good for, if you want to just look good for summer, things like that, I want to be able to get into a bathing suit and be on the beach and feel comfortable. So the motivation can be powerful, and that is great for, like you said, short-term results. But then it becomes the problem where your behavior falls back, and you don't, and you then your results fall back as well, and you have to keep restarting. And so why calm is more powerful is because that is how we change through the comfort, through when things feel natural to us. I talked about that little loop of behavior change and identity change. And so that only happens when you're in a calm state, when your nervous system is regulated, as we say, right? That you have your mind and body working in cohesion, so that when you do these actions, when you take on this new stuff, it becomes part of who you are. And so calm is so necessary for identity change, which is necessary for long-term results and longevity in general.
I love what you just say, and it's so true. When we have this calm mind,
Mm-hmm.
we take these things with a different perspective.
Yeah.
We take it in a different way. We're more patient.
Hmm.
We know that it's a process, and we're not pushing for the results. Like,
Exactly.
because motivation, as you were saying, is it works for starting something, but it cannot be the base, because you're not gonna feel motivated every day. And I like what you were saying, because just imagine, it's like when you're trying to start something and it's only motivation. In the moment motivation fails, we jump into frustration, into bad thoughts. I cannot do it, or I mistake it again. You see, you are not able to do it. We start there because we're relying only motivation. But
Yeah.
when you're calm, like, hey, it's normal. Some days I'm not motivated, and it's part of the process.
Yeah.
So I love what you were saying there. I really
So
like.
yeah, so when you talked about before, you talked about how it just doesn't work when you're doing it with pressure and stuff like that. So what's really happening with ourselves in our physiologically that's really preventing us from changing? Why doesn't change happen when you're dysregulated?
So, as you were sharing before about being calm and everything, when we're dysregulated, we're not calm. We're talking about we're stressed. When pushing for stress, and we have the mental stress and the body stress. Uh, One of those very important is that mental stress. When the mental stress goes very high, it's very hard, you're pushing very hard into it, you can get into what people already knows, like this survival mechanism that we have, and we enter into the fight, freeze, or collapse. Okay, and what we say here is, when you're pushing very hard to do something and is dysregulated, is not aligned with your lifestyle, it's a lot of pressure. So imagine you're trying to, okay, I'm gonna start going to the gym, and I'm gonna try to go to the gym 1 hour a day. But you have maybe a life where you have to wake up super early, you have to work long hours, and you want to go to the gym when you finish your job, and you want to go there and push, but you are drained, you are tired, but I'm gonna go anyway. When you begin to do this, there is a moment your body is too much stress. It's too much. You're pushing so hard, so uh, too much pressure, and your body will enter in a way of defending, protecting itself. And sometimes it can be coming maybe from your ego, but other times it's coming from the body. So there are the part that is not aligned with you. It's more like the ego and trying to protect yourself. But some other times it's the body, and these chemicals we produce in survival mode, like very high cortisol, very high adrenaline, and all these keeps you in a state that is not healthy, and long term. Short term, okay, but long term, if you keep it like that, it's gonna create a lot of problems in you. And each time you're gonna fail, there is the self judgment that is gonna jump into it, that is like part of the ego,
Mm.
that is gonna block your transformation. It's gonna begin those thoughts, no, those automatic negative thoughts that come to you, repeating, you see, you cannot do this, oh, this is too hard, it's easy for others, but this is not for me, it will not work. And all these begin to come because you are not aligned, you're not regulating the process. You're completely dysregulated. You're trying to push or the mind too hard or the body too hard into taking actions fast, and that dysregulation will affect the body and the mind.
Hmm.
And yes, it's gonna block you. It's gonna really block you, and you wanna quit. And each time that we quit, that reinforcement, that loop of quitting and quitting, will make that next time it's harder to try, because there is a lot of belief that it's not for you, that you cannot go through that. So personal misalignment
Right.
is is so hard, because sometimes we are trying to follow up the life of others, not your life. You're trying to follow. what, oh, this guy is doing all this, I'm gonna do the same. Oh, this girl is doing all this, I'm gonna do the same. But have you seen their lifestyle?
Yeah.
Do you know if they have the same responsibilities that you? They have the same time, the same environment, the same financial situation? You don't know. And if you are not aligned in all those points, if you are not understanding that what is working for them is not exactly have to work. And sometimes we're trying to fit this that will dysregulate, and then we feel bad. I cannot have that perfect morning routine that person is doing because it's so hard for me. I don't have the. No, is that their perfect morning routine? They design it for their lifestyle, not for your lifestyle. Maybe they don't have children. Maybe you have to wake up the children, take them to the school. They don't have that, so they have that time to do other stuff. So that dysregulation will create the stress in your mind and in your body.
Right. And I like how you bring in that loop of sort of the identity protection that happens with the nervous system dysregulated, and it reinforces the negatives. It reinforces, I can't do that. I can't, it's hard to do that. It's not for me. I'm not that person. And, and so not only do we have that positive identity loop, we have that negative identity loop too, that you reinforce those behaviors, those thoughts, that the stories we tell ourselves. And not only does it happen in the mind with the identity, but your nervous system decides your consistency long before your discipline does. You can't decide that consistency by discipline. You got your nervous system kind of defines that for you. If you're calm and you're steady and you're feeling good about things, then that consistency can come. If you're fighting it and it's dysregulated, you're stressed, it's never going to come.
And I love what you just said because it reminds me one thing, and is the body and ourselves, we are looking for safety. And we feel safe in what we already know. And when we're trying to bring different aspects to change our lifestyle, to change ourselves, our body, there is always a little bit of tension, no? Because, hey, why are you trying? We're going good here. And if what you're trying is like forcing it,
Hmm.
it's gonna, I don't wanna go there. So it's gonna push a lot. So that's why that part is so important. And I love what you were saying, just away
Hmm.
with that phrase. And so this brings me to 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 one thing that I wanted to ask you. And we talk about the mind, how the mind shapes is shaping the behavior of us. But how does the mind really can actually affect the body?
Oh yeah, the the whole mind over body thing is it's really a big topic, and people I think undervalue it. We all have heard some of the stories and some of the studies and this and that, and we're all aware of the placebo effect, right? Where they test drugs and they test the results of the drugs, but they also test somebody who takes a pill that doesn't have anything chemical in it, and what is the results are often nearly as good as the actual drug because people believe that this is going to help them. And there's so many examples of that beyond just some pharmaceutical trials. There are studies about mental practice and how people's behavior and performance can improve just by thinking about something. So our beliefs, our expectations, our perceptions about who we are, they shape our actual physiology. They actually shape our body. Our bodies can change through our mental state and our belief system. And so that's why, you know, stress and meaning and interpretation, they change everything about our body, our hormones, our genetic expression, which is our genes turning on and off. So how our body actually responds to our DNA is actually affected by our mental state, our gut health. You know, is there's a direct link between our brain and our gut. The vagus nerve, you our gut microbiome responds. There's studies about this too. Our gut microbiome responds to our mental state. And we have all heard lately about the importance of gut health, and we'll have episodes about that, I'm sure, as well. But in terms of the all the things it can do for you physiologically, a healthy gut. And so your mental state is so important for how your body responds. And so your identity isn't an abstract, and actually it lives in your body.
I love what you just were sharing, and this remind me this. I think people already know this exercise, but one of the powers of the mind, of how kind of affects the body, is the mental exercise. So please, if you're driving or you're using heavy machinery, don't do this. But if you close your eyes for a little minute and you imagine that you have a lemon, that you have cut the lemon in half, you take that lemon, you bring it to your mouth, you squeeze and get all the juice of the lemon in your mouth. Just feel it. Squeeze it. Feel that. Right now, let me guess. What is happening in you? You are producing a lot of saliva. You are like tasting and it's getting watery in your mouth. And that's the power of the mind. It, with imagination, sometimes we can really create effects and it begins to act. And this is a nice exercise, but imagine when you are stressed and people have, to add this, is a lot of people have digestive issues, as you were saying about the gut, because of their stress levels. And sometimes you're so stressed that you lose hunger. Sometimes you're so stressed that it's just affecting the body. So I love what you were explaining, and it's true. Identity is an abstract. It's not an abstract. It lives in the body, and I love that phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, we're aware that the mind influences the body in those ways that we just discussed, in so many other ways that we'll get into deeper in other episodes, I'm sure. But that really is related to what the topic of this episode is the identity affecting our outcomes and our consistency. And so, how we believe about ourselves is really going to affect even our physical body in the moment, and our genetic expression, everything else. But what does it happen in the other direction? We have to think about, where do we see the body, the state of the body, influencing our mental and emotional and energetic states?
Oh, I love that because in so many ways, it's so many ways. We can start with just sleep. For example, sleeping is one of the things that will affect your mood the most for the entire day. A bad night's sleep, deprivation sleep, next day, it's hard to take decisions, your mood is low, you can feel a little bit less motivation, it's gonna make the whole days really hard, and it kind of, you can feel like a roller coasters of emotions during the day when you don't rest or recover in a good way. And definitely the decision making is almost like if you are drunk or something like that. It's very bad, and it's very emotional instead of using more reasonable, and it's very impulsive. But at the same time, a lot of research has demonstrated that in the gut we produce a major amount of serotonin, and serotonin is a neurotransmitter to make us feel good, to make us feel calm, and feels so nice. So imagine if your gut is not working well and you're not producing enough serotonin. There's people who feel like they're down emotionally, that they feel sad or even depressed, and it's because they don't have this good balance of this neurotransmitter. So an issue in the gut can only that, but the other way too. Imagine if you are with gut pain the whole day and you are having issues to eat and everything, how do you feel and drag through the day? What happens when someone is suffering a pain in a knee the whole day or in the back, how is their mood? The mood is not, "Oh, I'm happy." No, they're focusing the pain that they're suffering. And movement, for example, is so important. Like going out to walk, receiving a little bit of sunlight in your skin, in your face, and starting the day with that bright light and doing a walk and relax, calms your mind down, makes you feel more happy. Or one of the best examples of how the body affects the mood and your mind. How do you feel when you dance and have a good time with your friends? When you go dancing and you're moving and everything, and you are full of happiness and you're singing and all this kind, this mind body connection. So, as you were explaining before, the mind can affect the body, but the other way too. The body can affect the mind. So, it's super important to understand that is a connection that it goes one and the other way. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful, that connection, and we have to understand that the two are working together.
Yeah.
But this is why I will wanted to ask you, why is a mistake to separate mindset and physical health?
Oh, so you mean like separating, like concentrating on how I improve my mindset or how I improve my physical health, separating them out as separate
Yes.
categories? Yeah, that is a mistake because I mean all that we've talked about in there, they're interconnected completely. And so when there's, I'll give an example of the mind body approach, or there's sorry, mind only approach, where people will just concentrate on getting smarter, gaining the mind control, gaining control of their energy, spiritual evolution, things like that, to where they'll do a lot of meditating, they'll do a lot of learning, they'll read a lot of books, they'll listen to a lot of podcasts, or they're all about elevating these higher frequencies parts of ourselves, the mind, the energy, uh, but without the biology, that gets becomes so limited. Um, like you said, if you're sick, if you're not feeling well physically, you can't feel well mentally. You can't. Your concentration goes away. If you're not healthy and energetic, then you're not able to keep your mind straight. You can't. You're not. Your brain is not as healthy. If you're not physically healthy, your physical brain is not as healthy either, and therefore it's limiting the power of that brain. Um,
Yes.
and aging happens quicker if you're not physically healthy, which limits your longevity of the enjoyment of and the progress you can make with those mental and emotional uh, growing that you want to do. And on the other side of things, body only approach, where I just want to be physically healthy and I'm not worried about growing myself in any other way, and I'm not worried about making sure that my mental and emotional health is taken care of in conjunction with this physical effort. And so that's when you get these, forcing yourself, and people can make great changes if they're all just concentrated on their physical, and they can look great, and they can be consistent about their diet and their energy, but they might not be happy at all. They're not satisfying their deeper needs because they're just concentrating on this. And that's when the shallow part of it comes in. If it's just about the look, if it's just about just this physical thing, and taking care of your body is great, but if you're not taking care of your growth in your mindset, in your vision and your energies, then it's only going to take you so far. And the ultimate goal is for us all to really enjoy this experience of life, and to get something great out of it. And if you're just trying to make these physical goals, you're never going to make yourself fully happy. And again, the mind over the body stuff we talked about, if you're not in a great mindset, then you're just going to limit your physical ability to be better. You won't sleep as well. Your body won't respond as well, to the stimulation you're giving it if you're in a bad mental state. And so all of this needs to, really work together. And so the transformation happens in that mental physical loop, for both, for the mental and emotional transformation and for the physical transformation. It happens in a loop that is a conjunction between the two. So they're integrated. And identity is embodiment. It's not just the thought. Identity is in your body, as we talked about before. And so you got to keep those linked together for real growth. So
I
have,
love what
have
you
you
just
have you
shared. And
observed that yourself, like with other people that have gone there, like that have been in one way or the other?
yes, look, in all this process when I started to self-development and working I started working my mind. Well, it's one of my first steps. But then I realized I needed the other part. I needed the body. And I have seen a lot of people focusing so hard in one of the areas. Like they truly work a lot of, that they read about psychology, emotional regulation, spirituality, and they began to work on these and everything. But then they were talking like, I'm having these issues in my body. Uh, um, I have the doctor told me I'm getting diabetes, or the doctor told me this, or I went to do an exam and I'm having this issue and these pains, and they're putting so much effort in their mind, they're forgetting about their actual body. But I have seen the other way, people doing a lot of activity and exercise and everything and amazing, but then they have a mess when it comes for emotional resilience, when it comes from uh, self-development, and there are stocks in mental patterns and rumination in thoughts, and still, so they don't find out how you need the two to advance. You have to grow in coherence with the two at the same time. And even the best example, when we see to the future, how many people will see that they only focus on career, but not only is the mental, even they're not training all the mental state. They are only focuses in one part of the mind, but they are forgetting about the connection with family. They are forgetting about their body. They are forgetting other areas, and they get to a point in life where they are super successful. They have win a lot of money and everything, but now they have tons of issues in the body, tons of issues of relationships, tons of issues in other areas where they have to invest, and they feel sometimes lonely and they feel bad because they didn't take care of those areas. Or people that you have seen that they focus so much in the body too, but not even the whole body. They train only, train and train and train, but they forget about the sleep, they forget about the nutrition. So it's not only that we focus in the mind or in the body, but sometimes is that we have to see the whole mind and the whole body all together working as a mechanism. So it's not to focus only in one aspect, not only in the body, not only in the mind, and not only one aspect of the mind or one aspect of the body. So that's very important. And that's why we have to understand that the mind shapes the body and the body shapes the mind. And that's very important because the transformation happens in the conversation between the two of them.
That's amazing. I love
So,
that thought. That's great. So as we try to get people sort of how to do this for yourself, and how we design this for our future, right? So maybe give me an example. What small identity shift made a big difference for you personally?
oh, oh, that's complicated sometimes to realize. What small actions I took that change that have a big impact. For me, I started, as I told you before, my work. Uh, my true improvement began when I began to work in my mind. And one of the first small shift I learned in my mindset was I had in the past of what they call fixed mindset. So there were some things that for me were a law. You're not going to be good in this and you're never going to achieve this. That was one part. And because of that fixed mindset, I had this conception that I have a little bit of victim mentality. That is not bad. It's just that For me, because I have a fixed mindset, I couldn't grow. I have the victim mentality. I cannot do that. My body cannot allow that. This happens because of this, and I was blaming the rest of the world of a lot of things, let's say. And when I began to work in my mindset, a small shift was to learn these two little concepts. One, growth mindset. And if you put time, energy, and effort in anything you want, you will improve. Maybe I'm not gonna be the best one in the world, but I can improve. From where I'm standing, I can move forward. And the other one was responsible. You are responsible. And it was hard for me, but I'm not responsible of what happens in the world, what is happening with the weather, the things in the governments, what other people do. I'm not responsible of nothing of that, but I'm responsible of how I react to things. So that was what pushed me. I was making responsible doctors and other people about my health. I was making responsible others about my mind and my emotional state. I giving the power to them. No, I that small shift of thinking about responsibility and growth mindset. I joined those two, and it creates a huge impact in my life. There is where I begin to improve in every area because I'm responsible of my health. I'm responsible of what I can control. I'm responsible of my emotions, of my perceptions, of what I choose to do, and how I react to situations. And that, for me, that vision began to shape. That begins to be part of my identity. I'm a person who's responsible. I'm not gonna blame anyone else, and I'm gonna work to improve myself every day. So that small identity shift inside of me, and I say small because were two concepts that I learned, they
Mm,
began to shape my complete whole life.
nice.
Who I was, how I have the perception of my future, who I wanted to become. But the growth mindset say, hey, it's not who you want to become, it's how, like, expand your mind, all the things I could do. And that was huge for me. So changing that small action create a ripple effect, and it begins to go bigger and bigger. And then I took it to my health, I took it to my learnings, to how I communicate with people, connect with people. It began to change everything. It was a beautiful moment.
Fantastic. That's amazing. And it's such a big shift from the small concepts, but yeah, from being feel like you're you're trapped in how you've been defined versus I can grow out of this. That's really probably the first change that anybody needs to make before they can, make any other kind of shift in their life, just to realize that we have that power. That's an amazing thing. Yeah.
Yes, it brings me a lot of. From there, I began to create all my little small habits. Now I began to work. The first small habit was awareness, being aware. Oh, you're reacting like this. What makes you this mad? Why are you? Or, oh, I'm curious about that. I wish I could do it. Well, just learn about it. That take a book, or take a course. It's not, I wish I could. Then I'm not saying you're going to become the best one in the world doing whatever you choose, but you're going to be much. You move forward from your standing, and we only have to compete with ourselves to become better. And you just push to be a little, 1% better every day. And those key little keystone habits I begin to build, they begin to move forward. So it was very powerful. And so I this bring me to, because I have that process, but how do you help someone design this future identity that feels safe instead that it feels overwhelming? How do you take someone through that process?
That's a good question. I think that people have some vision of who they want to be. Sometimes you got to work on that vision. Sometimes it's like it's confusing. There's a lot of different directions life could take. But if you have this vision of the type of person you want to be, how you want your life to be, then if you look at that identity of that person, like your best self, we'll call it, right? That identity, your best self, is something you can aspire to, something you can feel safe in. And if it challenges who you are now, then you're less likely to fight that. You're less likely to protect this current version of you if it's an aspirational movement toward that highest self. And so identities, as we talked about, that cycle's got to be comfortable. Each new habit's got to be this thing that you can integrate into who you are and what's comfortable in your life. So it starts, like you said, with these little small changes, with like how you made your shift, is these little keystone habits, these little small changes that help define that shift in identity that you want, right? And so we help people say, look at that vision, then start stepping toward it in small ways. Start anchoring these new behaviors just little by little. You don't have to be all in all at once, because again, we talked about how your body's, you're just going to fight that when it's all uncomfortable. But you build on these things by, so you get this safety before you go into that next level, that next expansion. You make sure you're safe in where you are. So the safety before expansion. So you you become, you become the purpose, you become the person that you practice being, really. And so
Beautiful.
that's it's not faking it till you make it. It's really shifting in reality. You're not, it's not faking it. It is living into it.
It's beautiful.
And I've had, actually,
Beautiful.
I've had clients that have done this, have made that mistake or have realized it and have made big efforts into that and have made big strides because of that, and that realization that it's not pushing themselves toward it, because they've always, and they realize there's, one of my clients was really self-aware, and it's like, every time I try to force myself to do something, I fight it. It's like my resistance to authority is even internal. I don't even want to tell myself to do something, that I have to do something. It creates this automatic resistance in me. And so
Beautiful.
then she realized, she's like, but when I look at the identity shift part of it, and she, because she does her own identity work and she coaches different people on different stuff, and she realized that, oh wow, if I step into this as an identity shift, and as a making sure that this is comfortable for me, and that each step is something I'm living into who I want to be, then it becomes more comfortable. It's not a punishment. It's not a pushing myself into it. It is a stepping into it, mindfully, and with the hope and with aspiration. And that's where it really takes hold.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. I, I I will say a way to try to resume what you was explaining right now, and this experience is like when you begin to work in those habits, in those steps, no, like every habit that you begin to practice is a boat of who you are becoming in that direction that you want to become, instead of something that you have to, it's not a test, it's not you fail or you pass it, it's just a boat for that self that you're becoming. And I love that
Yeah,
concept.
very well put. Very well put. Yeah, it's not something that you're testing yourself with. You're not trying to challenge yourself to get past something. It is just that little push to who you want to become. That's awesome.
Oh,
So what changed for people? I mean, what, okay, let me put it this way. What would change for people if they started with identity instead of action? So we talked about the pitfalls of it. So let's summarize it. So if people start with this identity versus just intensity and action, what really comes out for them?
So remembering my process or people I have been working with, what happens is that once you start working in your identity and you begin like to align where you want to go, identity is giving you the direction. It tells you where to go. Because sometimes when we're just starting without the identity, you are like trying to do so many different things, but you are not clear where you want to go. There is something that is not working. So it's very easy to walk a path, and in every turn that you have, you don't know, do I turn? Do I continue? Do I go left? Do I go right? No. So identity it gives you like the anchor where you're going. You know what, and you try to begin to think like, okay, who's that future self, that person I'm becoming, how they think. So that will reduce the overwhelming of decisions, what to do. You say, okay, these are my objectives, this is where I want to go, this is the person I'm becoming. So it gives you identity, it reduces the overwhelm, it allows you to enter and create in some rhythm and more harmony in your life because it's more aligned with the lifestyle that you can build. It makes that habits are more sustainable, as we have been talking, because you begin to get that's who you are. And as we were saying before, it's a both of who you're becoming. So identity begins to help you to integrate those habits and being more sustainable. And at the same time, all these together give you so much clarity. It gives you all the clarity, taking out all the noise. So it's even easier to decide who to follow, who do you want to learn from, what people are teaching, and you begin to have your own concepts. And I don't want to do this because it's not aligned with the person I'm becoming, and I like to follow this because this feels more with my values, with my identity, with who I'm becoming. So identity overall, to say it, is clarity, reduce overwhelming, give you rhythm, harmonize your lifestyle, and make habits become part of you. And that's so powerful. And that's what I would like to uh, ask you. What and why does body evolution begins here with identity?
Okay, yeah, with identity. Yeah. The reason why our process begins here, and we kind of hinted at it, obviously, but it really leads into the rest. It starts so that we feel safe. We have good direction, like you just pointed out. And therefore, we designed this whole system and this philosophy to start with that so that it leads right into once we give you the tools, the physical stuff to do, the movement, the exercises, or the options that you can do for fitness, the options you can do for diet, then you can more easily integrate and find those little chunks that you can bite off that feel comfortable for you within that body of knowledge that's and there's a ton of knowledge out there, and we'll try to distill that down for you. And in addition, it's kind of the anchor for your longevity blueprint, your the life you want to live and how you want to design it going forward. So if you follow this sort of process that we give you, then and you want to design yourself going forward, then you really have to know who you are and who you want to become in so many ways. Not that who you want to become can be always a shifting thing. So it's never locked in. It's like I've decided my identity, then I learned this, this, and this, and this. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I can do that, do little adjustments along the way for sure. But it still gives you that North Star that you can sort of always point to as you're going. And so that's why we really start with the identity. And otherwise, you're going to try something and have to stop and restart, all that kind of stuff. So we really want to just have this identity go in a direction. You can shift that direction slightly, but it's not about going back to the beginning ever.
Beautiful. I love it. And yes, we know that transformation gets easier in the moment our identity stops fighting our goals or stop fighting our lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I love that. And uh, just to say, if all of you who are listening to us right now or following us, if you like this conversation that we brought here, if it brings you a little bit of clarity, uh, just please hit the like button. We will love that. And follow the podcast and share it with someone who really needs and you think is going to be beneficial for them. And we wanted to share that we have some free resources that you can check out and take some actions if you want to start right now.
Yeah. And we also have, if you want to go deeper with us, and we are coaches, if you want to check out our program, the Body Evolution program, there's a link below for that as well. And you can find us on all the social media, and the links are in the description below. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next episode.
See you next episode.